They used to think they were gods in Hollywood, untouchable, unstoppable, immune to consequences. But fame has a funny way of bringing you back down to earth. Sometimes literally. Just ask Will Smith. From Oscar winners turned outcasts to superheroes turned troublemakers, these stars flew too close to the spotlight and got burned. Buckle up. It's a bumpy ride through the egos, scandals, and crash landings of Hollywood's once-untouchables. 1. Charlie Sheen. Winning until he wasn't. At the height of his powers, Charlie Sheen wasn't just a TV star. He was a walking headline with a laugh track. As the hard-partying bachelor on 2.5 Men, he became the highest-paid actor on television, pulling in nearly $2 million per episode. Life imitated art, and Sheen was loving it. The guy was winning, or so he claimed, repeatedly, loudly, with the kind of energy you'd expect from someone claiming to drink tiger blood for breakfast. But in 2011, Charlie's wild streak hit warp speed and then blew up on the launch pad. He launched into a bizarre media rampage filled with catchphrases like, "I'm a total freaking rock star from Mars, and passing away is for amateurs." He trashed his boss, trashed his show, and trashed what was left of his career. CBS responded the only way a major network could, by letting go of their biggest star mid-season. Not very winning. He tried to ride the chaos with a new show. Anger management. How fitting. But the public was no longer laughing with him. In 2015, Sheen dropped another bombshell. He had been HIV positive for years and had spent millions to keep it secret. Suddenly, his untouchable lifestyle didn't seem so glamorous anymore, just sad, reckless, and dangerous. Charlie Sheen once claimed to have Adonis DNA and tiger blood, but Hollywood's patience? Not nearly as mythical. Because when you fly too high on a rocket of ego and controlled substances, gravity always wins. 2. Katherine Heigl. From Romcom queen to Hollywood's cold shoulder. For a hot minute in the 2000s, Katherine Heigl was everywhere. She stole hearts on Grey's Anatomy, snagged an Emmy, and seamlessly jumped to big-screen stardom with hits like Knocked Up and 27 Dresses. Studios loved her. Audiences loved her. She was the face of feel-good romance, America's sweetheart with comedic timing and a dazzling smile. What could go wrong? Well, everything. And it started with her mouth. In 2008, Heigl did the unthinkable. She publicly trashed Knocked Up, calling it a little bit questionable in how it portrayed women, and accused the film of portraying women as humorless nags, while men got to be goofy and lovable. Not exactly what a studio wants to hear. Especially when you're criticizing your own hit movie. Then she took a swipe at Grey's Anatomy, withdrawing from Emmy consideration with a statement that the writing just didn't deserve a nomination that year. Translation: it's not me, it's the lazy scripts. Ouch. And just when Hollywood was wondering if she'd cool it, she doubled down, complaining on Letterman about 17-hour workdays on set, calling them cruel and mean. By then, Katherine wasn't just speaking her truth. She was burning bridges like it was cardio. The industry labeled her difficult, and the offers started drying up faster than a rom-com meet-cute in a sandstorm. She went from box office darling to persona non grata, proving that in Hollywood, speaking out isn't always empowering. Sometimes it's just career-ending. 3. Will Smith. The slap that shattered a golden legacy. For years, Will Smith was the definition of untouchable, a megastar with a spotless image, blockbuster charm, and a smile that could defuse a bomb. From Fresh Prince to Oscar royalty, he rode a decades-long winning streak with barely a wrinkle. The man had it all: fame, respect, box office magic, and even his own motivational Instagram empire. Nothing could touch him until he touched someone else with his open palm. At the 2022 Oscars, Will shocked the world. In a moment no one saw coming, he calmly walked on stage and slapped comedian Chris Rock across the face after a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith's bald head. The audience gasped. Social media combusted. Was this performance art? Nope. This was the night the Fresh Prince went full fresh punch. Minutes later, Will won Best Actor for King Richard. But instead of a standing ovation, he got worldwide whiplash. Memes exploded. Projects froze. The man who once saved the planet in Independence Day couldn't save himself from public backlash. He apologized publicly, calling his behavior unacceptable and inexcusable, but the damage was done. The Academy banned him from the Oscars for 10 years. Fans who once worshipped him now questioned everything. Lesson learned. Even the king of charisma can lose the crowd in a single, unfiltered moment. 4. Kevin Spacey. From Hollywood royalty to persona non grata. For a while, Kevin Spacey was Hollywood's ultimate power player, two-time Oscar winner, star of American Beauty, and the sinister charm behind Netflix's House of Cards. He was so good at playing manipulative villains, even real politicians took notes. President Obama once joked about no spoilers, but real life was about to deliver one heck of a plot twist. In 2017, Spacey's career imploded overnight. Actor Anthony Rapp accused him of making an inappropriate advance when Rapp was just 14. Spacey's response? A bizarre PR disaster. He apologized and came out in the same breath as if that would distract anyone. Spoiler: it didn't. It only made things worse. Then the floodgates burst. Dozens of others came forward with similar stories stretching across Hollywood and London. Turns out Frank Underwood wasn't just acting, he was channeling. Netflix let him go instantly. Sony cut him out of All the Money in the World, a film that was already finished, and reshot his entire role with Christopher Plummer. Talk about delete from existence. Within weeks, Spacey went from everyone's favorite president to Hollywood's most toxic name. No projects, no red carpets, no more creepy monologues into the camera. His fall wasn't just dramatic, it was Shakespearean. Except this time, the villain didn't get to deliver the final line. 5. Alec Baldwin. From Hollywood swagger to tragedy on set. Alec Baldwin always had a flair for the dramatic, both on and off the screen. Whether playing a smooth-talking executive or beefing with paparazzi, he moved through Hollywood like a man who thought the rules didn't apply to him. Need proof? He once called his own daughter a rude, thoughtless little pig in a leaked voicemail, got kicked off a plane for refusing to stop playing Words with Friends, and asked cops during a traffic stop, "Do you even know who I am?" Classic Baldwin. But in 2021, the drama turned tragic. While filming The Western Rust, Baldwin was holding a prop weapon when it fired a live round, ending the life of cinematographer Helena Hutchins and injuring the director. Hollywood was stunned. This wasn't a tabloid tantrum. This was a real-life tragedy. Baldwin gave a tearful TV interview and famously said, "I didn't pull the trigger," a line that left many scratching their heads harder than a plot twist in Inception. He was charged with involuntary manslaughter, a legal rarity for a movie star. Though prosecutors later dropped the charges, the damage was done. The tragedy sparked a firestorm about safety on film sets, Baldwin's accountability, and the line between actor and producer. The man who once oozed confidence suddenly looked small, shaken, and no longer bulletproof, metaphorically or otherwise. Turns out even when you're the boss on set, real life doesn't yell cut. Ultimately, the case was dismissed by a judge in the middle of the trial due to prosecutorial misconduct, effectively ending the legal battle. 6. James Franco, the overachiever who couldn't outrun his own scandal. James Franco was Hollywood's golden overachiever. He didn't just act. He acted, directed, wrote, painted, taught, and probably ran a vineyard on weekends too. One minute he's playing a stoner in Pineapple Express. The next he's getting an Oscar nod for 127 Hours. Then he's teaching film classes at NYU while starring in Spider-Man. The man was everywhere, and for a while untouchable until the multitasking mask slipped. In 2014, a 17-year-old girl leaked Instagram DMs where Franco, then 35, allegedly tried to meet her at a hotel. It was creepy, but Hollywood let it slide. Then came 2018 and the flood. 5 women, 4 of whom were Franco's former students, accused him of inappropriate or exploitative behavior. The irony? He just accepted a Golden Globe wearing a Time's Up pin. The headlines practically wrote themselves. The allegations painted a disturbing picture. An acting teacher who blurred every line between mentor and manipulator. Franco denied anything non-consensual, but later admitted he had behaved inappropriately with students and had issues he never really addressed. By 2021, he quietly settled a $2.2 million lawsuit and disappeared from the spotlight. No more quirky indie films, no more art house ambitions, just silence. Franco once juggled Hollywood like a circus act. But it turns out, no matter how many hats you wear, none of them can cover up a scandal this messy. 7. Amber Heard. From rising star to public enemy number 1. Amber Heard was on a rocket to the A-list. She had the indie credibility, the blockbuster clout from Aquaman, a beauty contract with L'Oreal, and a reputation as a fearless activist. In Hollywood terms, she was golden, famous, gorgeous, and outspoken. She even wrote a Washington Post opinion piece about surviving mistreatment. The world applauded, her spotlight blinding. Then Johnny Depp sued her for $50 million. In 2022, the exes collided in a courtroom battle straight out of a prestige miniseries, televised, turned into memes, tweeted about constantly. It was less a trial and more a cultural circus. Amber cried on the stand. The internet said she was acting. Depp smirked. The internet crowned him king. Justice was blind, but Twitter had 4K zoom. The verdict? Brutal. The jury sided with Depp, awarding him $15 million and her just $2 million. Amber claimed the case was a setback for women. The public, brutally divided. She was either a martyr or Hollywood's biggest manipulator. The fallout was immediate. Warner Brothers trimmed her Aquaman 2 role. Over 4.5 million people signed a petition to boot her entirely. She lost brand deals. Tabloids roasted her. TikTok declared open season. Eventually, the pressure was too much. She moved to Spain, changed her name, and went off-grid from red carpets to witness protection vibes. Amber once played a sea queen, but after the trial of the decade, she learned just how fast Hollywood and the internet can turn a crown into a curse. Rachel Zegler. From Disney Princess Darling to digital backlash. At just 20, Rachel Zegler went from unknown to unstoppable. Her debut in Spielberg's West Side Story earned her a Golden Globe and a one-way ticket to stardom. She was the first Colombian actress to win that award, and Disney quickly tapped her to play the fairest of them all, Snow White. Cue the fairy tale music, right? Not quite. From the moment Disney announced her as Snow White, the internet exploded. Some critics fumed over her Latina heritage as if cartoon royalty came with a genetic checklist. Zegler clapped back with confidence, telling the haters she wasn't about to bleach her skin for a role. Bold, viral, slightly scorched earth. Then came the interviews, and the real plot twist. Rachel said her Snow White wouldn't need saving by a prince, but instead would become a fearless leader. She talked about modernizing the classic and called the 1937 original weird. Disney executives sweating, fans divided, traditionalists started foaming at the mouth. But the real firestorm came in 2024, when Rachel dropped a Free Palestine caption on a Snow White promo tweet. Disney executives panicked. Producers flew in to beg her to take it down. She didn't. Tensions rose. Disney began vetting every post like it was classified intel. The movie hasn't even been released yet, but the trailer garnered record-breaking dislikes. Analysts are already predicting a box office struggle due to the massive PR backlash. On a $270 million budget. Ouch. Once seen as the next Disney darling, Rachel suddenly became a case study in what happens when Gen Z stardom, outspoken politics, and billion-dollar branding collide. Turns out being a modern princess isn't just about breaking curses. Sometimes you bring one with you. 9. Ellen DeGeneres. From Be Kind Queen to behind the scenes mean. For years, Ellen DeGeneres was the undisputed darling of daytime TV. The dancing, the jokes, the warm hugs. She built an empire on kindness and charm. She was the smiley face of positivity. The woman who made you feel like maybe, just maybe, the world wasn't so bad. She even broke Twitter with that Oscar selfie. Who didn't love Ellen? Well, her staff. Apparently. For a long time, there were whispers that the Ellen you saw on screen wasn't quite the one you got behind closed doors. But in 2020, those whispers turned into a screaming headline. A viral Twitter thread called her one of the meanest people alive. A YouTuber said she was ice cold off camera. Then came the bombshell reports alleging a toxic workplace on the Ellen DeGeneres show, complete with stories of intimidation, mistreatment, and worse, all under the rule of the Be Kind lady herself. Cue the irony. The brand was kindness, the backstage vibe, not so much. Ellen issued a public apology claiming the show had grown beyond her control. She even admitted that being the Be Kind lady was tricky when you're not perfect, which is one way to describe workplace chaos. 3 senior producers got let go. The show promised a reset, but the shine had worn off. Once seen as untouchable, Ellen learned the hard way that in Hollywood, your public persona is only as strong as your private behavior. And when the mask slips, the fall is fast, unforgiving, and in her case, painfully public. 10. Ezra Miller, the fastest fall from grace in Hollywood. For a while, Ezra Miller looked unstoppable. The quirky indie darling turned blockbuster superhero. From perks of being a wallflower to casting spells in Fantastic Beasts and zipping through timelines as The Flash, Miller was rising fast. And maybe they started to believe they were moving too fast for consequences to catch up. Then 2020 hit, and so did Ezra. First came the viral video, Ezra appearing to choke a woman outside a bar in Iceland. Not exactly Justice League material. Then the chaos snowballed. A karaoke night in Hawaii turned violent. Miller reportedly grabbed the mic from a woman mid-song, screamed obscenities, and lunged at a guy playing darts. A week later, they allegedly threw a chair at another woman during a traffic stop. Fast? Yes. Furious? Definitely. By 2022, the headlines got darker. Ezra was accused of grooming a minor, harassing neighbors, and breaking into a Vermont home to take liquor. They were becoming less misunderstood artist and more Florida man celebrity edition. Through it all, Ezra stayed silent until the legal walls closed in. They finally issued a public apology and announced they were seeking treatment for complex mental health issues. Warner Brothers still released The Flash, praying for a miracle. Instead, they got a box office belly flop and one very awkward press tour, which Ezra skipped. Turns out when your off-screen behavior outpaces your on-screen superpowers, even the Speed Force can't save your career. 11. Shia LaBeouf. From Hollywood's rebel prince to walking cautionary tale, Shia LaBeouf once had it all. The Disney charm, the action hero edge, and that rare, he might be crazy, but I like it energy. From Even Stevens to Transformers, he became Hollywood's favorite wild card. Studios loved him, directors raved, tabloids couldn't keep up. And Shia, he acted like the rules didn't apply because for a while they didn't. But behind the smirk and the swagger, things were unraveling fast. In 2013, Shia plagiarized a short film and turned his apology into an art installation. He wore a paper bag on his head that read, "I am not famous anymore." Weird? Yes. Over? Not even close. He got arrested at protests, screamed at cops, turned public meltdowns into performance art, and launched bizarre social experiments like He Will Not Divide Us, where strangers whispered into cameras for hours. At one point, you weren't sure if he was breaking down or just rehearsing for one. Then came 2020. Musician and ex-girlfriend FKA Twigs sued him, alleging emotional, physical, and psychological mistreatment. Suddenly, Shia's chaos stopped being quirky and started being dangerous. He denied some details but admitted he had been harmful and selfish, calling it a wake-up call. He went to rehab, got sober, stayed mostly quiet, but the damage? It was done. Shia once seemed like Hollywood's ultimate tortured genius. Now he's the cautionary tale everyone uses to explain why talent alone isn't enough, especially when your biggest role becomes your own personal implosion. 12. Tobey Maguire. From friendly neighborhood hero to poker-faced pariah, in the early 2000s, Tobey Maguire swung into superstardom as Spider-Man. With nerdy charm and big-eyed sincerity, he became the web-slinging face of a generation. Kids adored him. Studios banked on him. For a while, Tobey was the superhero standard. But behind the mask, Peter Parker wasn't the only one hiding secrets. Word on the lot? Tobey was tough to work with. Co-stars whispered about diva behavior. During Spider-Man 2, he allegedly faked a back injury to demand a bigger paycheck. A move so bold, producers briefly let him go until his girlfriend's studio executive dad pulled strings to get him back. Classic. Do you know who I'm dating? Energy. Then came the poker games. Tobey became a regular in underground high-stakes celebrity poker circles. Think Ocean's 11, but way cattier. According to Molly's Game, the tell-all-turned film, Tobey wasn't just a player, he was the villain. In one now infamous story, he allegedly offered a hostess a $1,000 chip if she'd bark like a seal. Spoiler, she didn't. His name later surfaced in a lawsuit tied to poker winnings linked to a Ponzi scheme. Though he wasn't charged, the press painted him less like Spidey, more like Shady. After the Spider-Man trilogy, Tobey's career slowed. He pivoted to producing and mostly vanished from the spotlight until a nostalgic cameo in No Way Home briefly reminded us why we loved him. But by then, Hollywood had moved on. Turns out, even superheroes don't get immunity from karma or from acting like the villain at the wrong table. 13. Danny Masterson. From sitcom star to 30 years to life, Danny Masterson had the smug grin of a guy who thought nothing could touch him. As Stephen Hyde on That 70s Show, he played the lovable burnout with perfect comedic timing. Off-screen, he was a fixture in Hollywood's inner circle, producing shows, partying with A-listers, and flaunting deep ties to the Church of Scientology. According to Masterson, he'd never been hassled about his beliefs. Why? Because I had powerful friends. Yeah, about that. In 2017, everything changed. 3 women, all former Scientologists, came forward accusing him of serious offenses in the early 2000s. They claimed the church pressured them to stay silent. One went public saying she was done protecting predators. Netflix initially brushed off the accusations until they didn't. Masterson was let go from the ranch, dropped by his agent, and officially labeled toxic. In 2020, he was charged with 3 counts of forcible assault. His defense? Deny everything and stay silent, even at trial. Prosecutors painted a chilling picture. Manipulation, coercion, cover-ups. Masterson didn't testify. The jury spoke instead. In 2023, he was found guilty on 2 counts and sentenced to 30 years to life. Not exactly a rerun-worthy ending. This wasn't just another Hollywood scandal. It was a seismic fall from primetime punchlines to a prison cell. The man who once joked about always landing on his feet now won't see freedom again until he's old enough to qualify for that 70s retirement home. Turns out no amount of fame, faith, or famous friends can save you when the truth and justice finally catch up. 14. Armie Hammer, the privileged heir who fell from grace. Armie Hammer used to be Hollywood's golden boy. You know the guy. Pedigreed lineage, chiseled jawline, and roles that made people swoon. Call Me by Your Name, The Social Network. He had the kind of swagger that said, yeah, I know, I'm rich and charming. Go ahead, envy me. Then 2021 happened. Overnight, Golden Boy became Scandal Boy. Multiple women came forward accusing Hammer of emotional mistreatment, inappropriate conduct, and even sharing disturbing fantasies. Yes, fantasies involve extremely dark and disturbing fantasies, which the public devoured. Metaphorically, his image, once spotless, was now marred by whispers, screenshots, and tabloid headlines that could fill a library. No charges on some claims, others under investigation. His agents dropped him. His projects evaporated. Brands pulled sponsorships. The once emerging superstar found himself unemployable in the mainstream. Now Hammer's trying to piece things back together. He's doing podcasts, making public apologies, talking therapy, living in a tiny apartment. As he said, far from the mansions and party invitations. He even admitted that the shocking rumors, wild as they were, might always follow him like a bad tattoo. The lesson? In Hollywood, pedigree and good looks can buy you a lot until they don't. One misstep, one tweet, one secret sliding out, and suddenly the fairy tale flips. And for Hammer, the script of his life got rewritten without his approval. 15. Jussie Smollett. From Empire star to infamous plot twist, Jussie Smollett was riding high as Jamal Lyon on Empire. He wasn't just a breakout star. He was a trailblazer, a proud, openly gay black man leading one of TV's hottest shows and cashing $100,000 an episode. Hollywood loved him. Activists praised him. He was talent, visibility, and progress wrapped in one stylish package. Then came January 29, 2019, and a story that unraveled faster than a bad soap opera. Jussie told Chicago police he was attacked by 2 men in ski masks who shouted hateful slurs, poured bleach on him, and tied a noose around his neck. The media exploded. Politicians rallied. Celebs tweeted. America was outraged. But detectives? They got suspicious. Turns out Jussie scripted the whole thing, rehearsed it, chose the spot, paid two brothers $3,500 to play attackers, who also happened to be his personal trainers. The proof? Surveillance footage, text messages, and cherry on top, a literal check. Hollywood clutched its pearls. Fox quietly wrote him out of Empire. Chicago sent him a $130,000 invoice for wasting their time. And a grand jury indicted him on 16 felony counts because if you're going to fake a hate incident, maybe don't leave a paper trail. In 2021, he was convicted on 5 counts of disorderly conduct. The judge called him arrogant and narcissistic. Jussie got 150 days in jail, served only a few, but his career? Sentenced to life in pop culture purgatory. Smollett once wanted to be a symbol. Now he's a punchline. Turns out when you write your own plot twist, make sure it doesn't come with handcuffs. 16. Megan Fox. From bombshell to burned by Hollywood. In 2007, Megan Fox exploded onto the scene like a CGI fireball in Transformers. With piercing blue eyes, cheekbones, and a smirk that could melt steel, she became the symbol of the late 2000s. Directors drooled. Magazines plastered her everywhere. She wasn't just hot, she was untouchable. Then, she opened her mouth. In 2009, Megan made the mistake of comparing director Michael Bay to a dictator during an interview. Ballsy? Yes. Career savvy? Absolutely not. Hollywood legend has it that Steven Spielberg himself pushed to have her let go. Transformers 3 ditched her and suddenly the It Girl was more like X-Girl. She followed up with Jennifer's Body, a horror comedy that tanked at the box office but was ahead of its time. Critics wrote it off as another excuse to ogle Megan in a cheerleader outfit. Completely missing the satire, the media turned on her, branding her difficult, vapid, and disposable, basically a magazine cover in human form. By the 2010s, Megan was in career limbo. She popped up in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and sitcom cameos, but the A-list had moved on. Even memes about her outshined her film roles. But here's the twist. Jennifer's Body was later reclaimed as a feminist cult classic. Megan, the so-called cautionary tale, became a case study in how Hollywood chews up and spits out women the moment they speak up or stop smiling. Turns out the real danger wasn't being too attractive. It was daring to talk back. 17. Jonathan Majors, the Kang who conquered nothing. For a moment in 2023, Jonathan Majors held Hollywood in the palm of his hand. He wasn't just an actor, he was the next big thing. Marvel built their entire multi-billion-dollar future around him as Kang the Conqueror. He was starring in Creed 3 alongside Michael B. Jordan. Magazine covers called him a generational talent. He had the intensity, the look, and the critical acclaim. He was unstoppable, until a single text message changed the timeline forever. In March 2023, news broke that Majors had been arrested in New York City following a domestic dispute in the back seat of a chauffeured car. The allegations were serious, a physical confrontation that left his then-girlfriend with minor injuries. Majors denied everything, claiming he was the victim. But in the court of public opinion, the damage was instantaneous. The U.S. Army pulled his recruitment ads, his PR firm dropped him, managers walked away. But Marvel waited. They held their breath, hoping their new supervillain could beat the charges. He couldn't. In December, a jury found him guilty of reckless assault and harassment. The verdict came down, and within hours, literally hours, Marvel fired him. The studio didn't just recast a role. They scrapped an entire film title, The Avengers, the Kang Dynasty. Majors avoided jail time, receiving a sentence of domestic violence programming instead, but his career received a life sentence. Jonathan Majors was supposed to be the villain who destroyed worlds. Instead, he became a textbook example of how quickly you can lose your own empire when personal volatility meets professional consequences. 18. Wesley Snipes, the vampire hunter who couldn't dodge the IRS. Before the MCU took over the world, there was Blade, and Blade was Wesley Snipes. Cool, stoic, and draped in leather, Snipes single-handedly proved that comic book movies could be gritty and profitable. In the late 90s, he was an action icon. But by the time Blade Trinity rolled around in 2004, Wesley had started believing he really was the Daywalker. The stories from the set of Blade Trinity are legendary. Co-stars claimed Snipes would stay in his trailer all day, refusing to speak to the director David Goyer. Instead, he reportedly communicated via post-it notes signed "From Blade." There were rumors of him trying to strangle the director and refusing to open his eyes for a scene, forcing the CGI team to digitally paint eyes onto his face. He wasn't just being a diva. He was actively sabotaging his own franchise. But his biggest enemy wasn't a vampire or a director. It was the government. Snipes decided that paying taxes was optional. He got involved with a group that argued U.S. citizens didn't legally have to pay income tax. The IRS, famously lacking a sense of humor, disagreed. In 2008, he was convicted on 3 misdemeanor counts of failing to file tax returns. The court sentenced him to 3 years in a federal correctional institution. He went from walking red carpets to walking the yard. Snipes served his time and was released in 2013, but the A-list offers were long gone. While he recently made a glorious nostalgic cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine, reminding everyone that there's only been one Blade for a decade. His biggest role was inmate number 4, 335-52018. Turns out, you can fight an army of the undead, but you can't fight the tax man.